Welcome into the CHGO White Sox podcast. On today's episode, we'll be talking about the new White Sox bench coach, Walker McKinven. Got to make sure I'm saying that right because I haven't been. And we'll be talking with Erik Kratz of Foul Territory about Walker next. Welcome into the CHGO White Sox podcast, coming to you live from Studio A of our CHGO offices here in the West Loop of Chicago. I'm your host, Sean Anderson. Alongside me, the full CHGO White Sox crew. That is Vinny Duber, our CHGO White Sox beat writer. You can read his work at allchgo.com. And the man in the middle is Herb Lawrence.
Hello.
Our CHGO White Sox community leader. We're being produced today by our pal, Sarah.
Hi.
Make sure you're hitting that thumbs up button. Make sure you're subscribing to the CHGO Sports YouTube channel. I see Big Dave behind the camera. That means we got a CHGO Bull show coming up. So let's go. Hey, they just won last night. It's a big story. Make sure you're subscribing and hitting that thumbs up button. We got White Sox news today. Walker McKinven was announced by Will Venable as his new bench coach. McKinven has spent the past 8 years, 2016 to now, with the Milwaukee Brewers. And Venable announced this today on Foul Territory. Oh, now we go. Oh, all right. Hold on. Our guest isn't ready. I'll tap dance here. We're going to have Erik Kratz on. Erik Kratz is an 11-year Major League veteran who is also a part of Foul Territory with AJ Przinsky, Scott Braun, and others. So we will talk about Erik. We'll talk to Erik Kratz about Walker McKinven. How you guys doing? You excited about Walker?
I'm very excited.
You've been doing your research. You've been diving into the Google machine.
I mean, the continuing pattern it keeps on happening where the White Sox are getting people that the rest of the Major League community actually wants. This is a thing for White Sox fans that we haven't experienced in a long time. I mean, getting Ryan Fuller already, getting Brian Bannister. Now you're going to add this Walker McKinven guy. It just looks like Chris Getz is doing a great job. And I didn't even talk about Will Venable, who broke the news today on Foul Territory with our guest that's going to be coming on right now. So it's just what's going on? There's got to be a reason, and I think the main reason all centers back to Chris Getz, and he's doing a great sales job.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the most interesting thing about McKinven is probably that resume. It's wordy over from what he did with the Brewers. A lot of different roles, covering a lot of different ground. But again, like we talked about during the managerial search, jobs that didn't exist on the White Sox before, jobs that people have had across baseball that gives them insight, different ways of working. The White Sox haven't had those positions or even people that have had them. So to bring in multiple of those guys, and certainly one as the new bench coach, again, just creates a little bit more modernity with this White Sox team, which is obviously what Chris Getz is trying to go for.
McKinven is from New Trier, so shout out. We got a local kid. We got a local product. If Naperville Nicky Lopez is going to be on his way out, we got Walker McKinven to replace him. McKinven was a former professional baseball player with the Worcester. Am I saying that correctly? Worcester.
You had it right the first time.
Tornadoes. He was also an intern with the Cubs from 2013 to 2014, was with the Rangers from 15, all of 2015, from February to November of 2015, and then he's been with the Brewers for about 9 years now. We have Erik Kratz ready to go, former Major League player, 11-year veteran, and current co-host of Foul Territory with AJ Przinsky and Scott Braun. Go check out their YouTube channel and watch their shows live. They just had White Sox manager Will Venable on today. Erik, what'd you make of Will Venable as you guys talked to him today?
You're going to love this guy. There's no, he is the antithesis because I just heard the word modernity. So I hadn't used modernity. So I feel like I need to use my vocabulary when I'm on this pod. He's the antithesis of your last manager. So that's a positive. But let's have some grace for my guy, okay? He won a World Series, basically less than a year ago with the Rangers, and he's taken over a team that had a few losses short of a World Series. So let's make sure you don't think he's going to be doing miracles here, but I really never knew Will, but just what I saw on the show today, and what I've heard about him from other people, like he gets it. He cares for his players, and that'll get the most out of whatever the roster is constructed with.
Just one more there. I know you played in the Royals system from 14 to 15, so there must have been some overlap there with Grifol. What was your experience with Pedro there, and how do you think it will be different with Venable? As you said, there's the care there for the players. Pedro seemed like a caring guy, but was it just too many expectations for Pedro, and now Venable, it's just a clean slate with him?
I'm not sure what you mean by expectations, other than like one of 30 jobs as a manager. You expect to have victories. You expect to get the most out of your players. And I get it. You get rid of your ace at the beginning of this season. Weren't expecting to have a lot of wins. And you sit there and you go, okay, well, did he do bad? But when you start feeling and hearing that players are getting mixed messages, that's the biggest difference. Like, if Pedro's sending mixed messages to his players and they're coming out and saying it, I think it's one of those things that you kind of felt that as a fan, but you saw it from players' comments. Like, he decided to get on guys the one game when, they got no hit, or it was no hit through 8. It was like, yeah. And so it's like, got to have better at bats than that. And players are like, well, actually, that guy was pretty freaking nasty. So it's like, let's get some feel in the situation. And so that's really what I think Will is going to bring to the table. Because it was actually one of the things that I asked him. I was like, because all I've heard is he's a super nice guy. You see his demeanor is like super positive, and he's smiling. I think he's got like a resting, smiling face, which is opposite of your resting, face, but he's always that way. And I said, you think you'll be able to get in somebody's face when it's time to do that? And he unequivocally said, yeah, but his focus is going to be on loving on these guys and building them up to be the best that they can be, which is really how you have to be a good leader.
And today on your show, Manager Will, Venable broke some news that their new bench coach is going to be Walker McKinven. And so you spent some time with Walker in 2018 with the Brewers. What are the White Sox getting in this new bench coach?
Somebody that is truly in the trenches with the players. This guy's not like any other, and I don't want to put the analytic framework around him, but he gets it. He gets the analytic stuff. He understands it, but he understands the applicability of it. And since 2018, that's when I came over, and then I got fired in the beginning of 19 at the end of spring training. They have only improved in the areas that he is, I won't even say in charge of. Like, he's the bridesmaid, but he's the guy that really pushes buttons to let the players understand the analytic part of the game, and also develop the game, the in-game adjustments and the scouting reports pregame. And it's like, so analytic guys get the moniker of, well, this is what the analytics say, and you just got to stick with it because it'll work out in the end. He's like, hey, this is what our game plan is, but look at how we're making the adjustments. Look at what this umpire's doing. Look at what these guys on the field are doing. It doesn't look like the guy on the mound for us has the best stuff. Here's the best matchup. And he's so sharp in that stuff. He is so good at that stuff. And he is going to be in a expanded role for him as a bench coach. I think it's going to test his boundaries, but it's also going to test his ability to communicate, which I've had a personal relationship with him even after they fired me. I think he's grown so much since 2018 that this is going to be a really, really huge hiring for the White Sox, because he will get the most out of every one of these players that's on the roster, which I get it. The White Sox aren't in for the Juan Soto deal quite yet, but look at what the Brewers have done. If you look at like prognosticators, they're like, Brewers are going to win 77, 78 games for the last 6 years. and they've gone over that every year. So if everybody says, the White Sox are going to lose 110 games, this guy will get the most out of this team and help these guys to develop a game plan that is going to push them when they are a 3 to 4 games over 500 type of team. Now all of a sudden it's going to bump them to that 90 win season, 95 win season, because he's able to give real life usage for the analytic numbers that I feel like watching the White Sox, they did nothing of.
Erik, he's been with Milwaukee for nearly a decade, and that's a long time. But in 2018, he wasn't even 30 years old yet. What kind of communication ability does he have, and did you recognize that a young guy coming with that information is able to relate to big leaguers who have been around for a while, like yourself, veterans who know the game? What sort of communication skills did he have even back then, and certainly has developed since, that's going to help him out with the White Sox?
Well, back then he was still kind of green. I mean, it was a learning curve for him. But after I left, so at that point he was in what I would call, him and BP, Brian Polish, were the advanced scouts. And they would develop the advanced scouting for our pitchers and for our hitters. So pre-series, they would both develop this plan and he would present it. And I think he sometimes had a tough issue getting the guys bought in, because when you look at a guy who's never played, when you look at a guy who's kind of a quiet, reserved kind of person, you sit there and you go, well, this fool don't know jack. Like he doesn't know what it's like to be in the box against peak Adam Ottavino slider. So whatever he wants to tell me, screw you, I'm doing what I want. But he developed that relationship just over the 3/4 of a year that I was there. He developed that relationship with guys, and his scouting meetings started to be tailored to the actual applicability of what he was saying. He saw things that he was like, well, this is really going to help you guys, but I think this is how we're going to approach it. And if we stay in this lane, it's going to be successful. And then they started giving him more roles. He really kind of helped transition their receiving and catching, I don't know what you want to say, department for the big leagues. Like he started working with Manny Pena. Manny Pena's receiving numbers went through the roof just in September. So then the next year they got Yasmani Grandal, who was he was the one that got me fired, and he already brought in a lot of catching knowledge and ability. I think Yasmani, once he fleeced the White Sox, kind of, his numbers kind of dropped off when he got there. But what Walker McKinven did is then the next year they went out and got Omar Narvaez. Narvaez was a brutal receiver. Came in, became a top 10 receiver. Then they went out and I'm trying to think who they got next. Victor Caratini, who you saw from the other side over on the crappy side of Chicago with the Cubs. They brought him and his numbers increased. And then they brought in William Contreras, and this dude almost won a Gold Glove. So you sit there and you go, okay, well, he's working on the receiving end of catchers. There's so many other things, but those are just applicable things that you can see, and you can look at his track record because he's able to apply the things that he knows are successful at the big leagues. And that's where I think his value is going to be huge, huge, huge as a bench coach.
All right, Kratzy, we appreciate the 15 minutes. We're closing in on a break here. I feel like this is a wasted question, but I have to ask it. You're a big Davey supporter guy. Davey Garcia is now going to Milwaukee. Did the White Sox just lose out on a great reliever, or, has it now been 3 years since you last worked with Davey, and, maybe it's not going to be it for the 5'9" guy? Because I still believe in him, the conductor.
I love that nickname. I refer to him as mi hijo, my son, my Dominican little hijo. When I took a vacation to the Dominican when I was 19 years old, him and his mother. No, I won't. But no, you know what? this might be why if I ever get back into coaching or managing that I'm going to suck, because I truly believe in players. I believe that anybody, I mean, if you look at my career, I sucked for a long time, but somehow I stuck around and was helpful to a team. And I truly believe somebody with talent like Davey can give a team a huge, huge boost because the talent's in there. Yes, he's had some injuries, but I think if the right people get around him, I think if the right people understand how athletic he is and keep him in a lane, I think it's like Mookie Betts. If you say, Mookie Betts, we want you to play every position in one game, he'll be able to do it, but it's not going to get the most value out of him. If you say Davey Garcia, I want you to throw like this pitcher, and this pitcher, he'll probably be able to do it, but it's not getting the most value out of him. So it hurt me when he went to the White Sox, and shocker, he didn't do great. They didn't get the most out of him, but I think when he goes to a place like Milwaukee, if there's still some life left in that arm, which I think there is because he's still freaking super young, I mean, he's just going to join the DFA bullpen that the Brewers have. It's like if you've been DFA'd, the Brewers are going to give you like a 2.3 ERA in the bullpen. So there's that for the White Sox to look forward to, other than watching Jake Cousins and Tim Hill pitch in the World Series and have success. I mean, I don't want to dig the knife in deeper and turn it for you boys, but 3-4 year plan for the White Sox, that's legit.
Yeah, don't forget Rodon, too. Just really stab that knife in. Erik, we appreciate it a ton.
Kopech, too.
11-year MLB vet and current co-host of Foul Territory. Make sure you go check out Erik. You can follow him at Erik Kratz 31. We appreciate it, Erik.
No doubt, boys. Thanks for having me on.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to take a break. We're going to tell you about the great people over at Empire and PrizePicks. With Empire today, you get shop at home convenience, the right product for your needs, quick and professional installation, and a low price guarantee. Empire today is the best place to get new flooring, so of course they have copycats, but Empire cannot be beaten on their quality, service, and speed. That's why competitors advertise low-quality products that Empire simply won't carry. Empire won't promise the lowest prices because anyone who does is putting flooring in your home that they wouldn't put in theirs. They keep shopping for floor simple with a curated product selection. Their philosophy is to help you find what you need and not overwhelm you with thousands of choices and substitutes. What Empire leaves out of their selection is just as important as what they put in. Their product team exhaustively combs through thousands of product samples each year to find the perfect styles for your home. And you can check out those perfect styles with their virtual floor designer. It's a great way to see how new floors will look in any space. It's easy. Just snap a picture and instantly see how new floors will look in your room. So schedule a free in-home estimate today. All listeners can receive a $350 off discount when they use promo code CHGO. Restrictions apply. See empiretoday.com/CHGO for details. 588-2300 Empire Today. Woke you guys up with that one.
The chorus chimed in there on the last four numbers.
PrizePicks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in award winnings, PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less than on at least two players for a shot of winning up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the only real daily fantasy platform with injury insurance policy, so your lineups stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. If your player leaves in the first half and doesn't return, PrizePicks keeps your lineup alive. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play 5. You don't even need to win. Receive the $50 bonus. It is guaranteed. PrizePicks is the best way to win real money for this football season, which players are going off, which ones aren't. Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports opinions into real money all season long with PrizePicks. For the baseball season, I picked Adley Rutschman and Carlos Correa to have multiple home run games, and they did. And they won about $150 from me on PrizePicks. So go and do that right now for the NFL, for the NBA, and for the NHL. Download the app today and use the code CHGO for $50 off instantly Use the code CHGO, get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CHGO, $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game.
Thanks, sir. We'll go to the comments real quick. Before that, though, Erik Kratz, appreciate him joining us. Make sure, again, you go check out Foul Territory, and you probably already know about it because who doesn't love AJ? Who doesn't love Kratz? Appreciate him joining us. Hit that thumbs up button. Make sure you're subscribing to the CHGO Sports YouTube channel. We do have some comments all the way in the bottom. Leonard pointing out, can we call him Walker Texas Ranger? I threw out there, he was at one point Walker Texas Ranger coach.
Or something.
Kind of just combine his profession and name. So, yes, we can call him Walker Texas Ranger. If you want to scroll all the way down, though, Sarah, our guy Scott Belanger saying, didn't learn with Council more of Milwaukee's leftovers. I'm
sure he's referring to Craig Council, not Council.
Right.
Yeah.
And also, I mean,
the spelling's different.
It seemed like Craig Council was pretty worse off down in Chicago rather than being in Milwaukee. It seemed like Pat Murphy, the leftovers, did all right. And then we also have, what was the other one, Sarah? Sorry, can you scroll on? David asking, are the White Sox going to sign anyone big in the offseason?
No.
Okay. All right. What do we make of Walker here, especially after what we learned from Kratz? I think the biggest thing is making information actionable. I believe that was something Chris Getz said word for word. This is somebody that, especially from a major leaguer, a former major leaguer in Erik Kratz, this was a guy, Walker, who was able to make information actionable, and it's less, that slider is going to play low and away. It's more specific and detailed scouting reports that players can understand, which, woohoo.
Yeah, I mean, listen, again, like I said at the beginning, it's about bringing the White Sox into a more modern era of baseball, and not that they haven't had people who have been trying to do that, I'm sure, but they obviously haven't done it well enough that it has worked. And so I think to kind of, again, go to a different organization that does things so well. The Milwaukee Brewers do so much with so little, and in terms of financial resources spent on payroll, and to bring in somebody who knows how that operation works, who's been a part of why that operation works, and to do things the way they do it, that ain't bad. That's a good call for a team that's looking to shave down payroll, right, like the White Sox are, and focus on younger players here as they continue to rebuild. I think, having a guy who has done so many different jobs that the White Sox haven't even had, right? I mean, here you go. Here is McKinven's resume with the Milwaukee Brewers. Before he started coaching, he was a front office role. He was the manager of Major League Strategy. He was also a coordinator of advanced scouting, which you heard Erik Kratz talk about, right? Then 2020, Major League Strategy coach. From 21 to 2023, he was the associate pitching, catching, and strategy coach. And last year, he was the Brewers' run prevention coordinator. To my knowledge, the White Sox have never had any of those things. I mean, obviously, they've had an advanced scouting director, but the idea of a strategy coach and a run prevention coach, the White Sox just don't have those things. And so, not that they are adding that job to the coaching staff, though we will find out if there are any new roles once the full coaching staff is announced, but you're bringing in somebody who knows how to do something different than the White Sox have done it. It's not just plug him in. Hey, we need a new hitting coach. Plug in a hitting coach and let's go. We need a bench coach. Plug in a bench coach and let's go. They're bringing in somebody who thinks about things in a little different way. And so I think that is just as important as what his job title is going to be. We've got a super chat here saying, can you break down the responsibilities of a bench coach? They're basically there to be the right-hand man of the manager, right? So they're basically there to be a sounding board, to provide ideas. We heard Will Venable, who was the associate manager, which is something he called a glorified bench coach to Bruce Bochy in Texas, that Bochy would ask him about the lineup every day, that he'd ask him about decisions that he was going to make in the field. And that is the job of a bench coach, right? It's to provide that feedback, to give that opinion. Obviously, it's the manager's decision at the end of the day, but how often do we hear Grady Sizemore last year when he stepped into the interim manager's role saying how he wanted to lean on the rest of the coaching staff when it came to those decisions and really make it a team effort? Even if you are a manager and not an interim manager and you have all the confidence in the world to make those decisions, you got a group of guys around you who can help you out, and the bench coach is the first person that you would turn to talk to about those things. So I think that you've got a guy who thinks about things differently, who has that analytic / applying analytics background, which is extraordinarily helpful. But his job isn't necessarily going to be to do that with the White Sox, right? And so the idea of someone who thinks that way, then being the voice or the angel on Will Venable's shoulder, right? That's helpful. That's something the White Sox haven't had before, and that is probably what's going to help him succeed in this role and the White Sox succeed with him in this role.
And when things like this happen where the White Sox hire a new person that we really haven't heard of, like when they hired Ryan Fuller, I usually go to the fans or the people who usually follow them every day, like we follow this team. It's not the end-all, be-all, but when you have people who are fans and people who know that team's baseball program really lamenting the loss of that player or that coach, that speaks volumes. Like all the Brewers podcasts I've listened to, all the Brewers Reddits I've watched, like, oh no, we lost him. It's like, yeah, we have a good pitching coach and we love Murph, but this guy was the next guy. If we ever lost Murph and Murph was ready to retire, which he's a little long in the tooth, Walker McKinven would have been the guy. That's what most of these people think about, and they think he is going to be a future manager in the future because of his knowledge and his work within front office, his work within scouting, his work within the players wearing baseball pants, as he said in the interview he did with Foul Territory. Like, those things are valuable. Very few people have all that integrated into their systems, and as you were talking about, having the translation of the R&D world to the player world. Like, the players, yeah, some of them know it. Some of them are into the analytics and the jargon that comes along with that, but you need to break that down into actual things that they can hear and know about. And this seems like this guy has all of those things, and he helped, as our guest Erik Kratz says, he helps catchers. As we saw when he was here, Omar Narvaez was a absolute brutal catcher of the baseball. And he helped him to be a better framer. And you just saw Erik talk about, you went from William Contreras, who was always known as a hitter in the Braves system. Then when he got traded to the Brewers, he increased his framing stats to something that was at the top of the league and almost won a Gold Glove for himself. So you're going to get better framing from Corey Lee, Edgar Carroll, just by this guy teaching new things. Also, you're going to get more catcher interference. That's one of the things that Erik talked about, that, the catcher interference and things like that, that's maybe by design. You could take the trade off of good framing for, a 5 or 10 catcher interferences a year. So I think he's going to bring in better pitchings and stealing more pitches for their pitchers to the White Sox with his game planning, all the stuff that he knows.
McKinven worth 6.1 WAR in 2023 and then 6.9 in 2024. So, I mean, huge addition.
Really?
Made all of that up.
Those are big numbers.
Yeah, I made it up. Yeah. So, I mean, if we're going to make up stats, let's make them nice stats, right? I mean, come on. If you could scroll up, I just do want to give a love to Kevin. For the $5 super chat, Kevin Bryant saying, can you break down the responsibilities of bench coach? We heard amazing things about Charlie Montoyo, and he was fired before the season. I would love to see where those amazing things about Charlie Montoyo were. I mean, he was a former major league manager, but it did seem like an arranged marriage. The best thing about this is it's Will presenting this bench coach. I don't know how much of this is an arranged marriage. This could be somebody that Chris Getz has always had their eye on in Walker McKinven. And maybe he wasn't ready to be a manager yet, but he's ready to be a bench coach. I think the best part about this, at least comparing Montoyo to Grifol, it does seem, or is it's being presented like Will Venable got his guy. Will Venable went out and chose who he wants to be his sounding board off of. So the guy that's going to be putting together all these scouting reports of the other team and trying to be, hey, they got a righty coming out of the pen. What does this guy look like? That's going to be a sounding board, Will Venable's sounding board. So hopefully it is a relationship that Venable is excited about, and Venable hopefully was a part of the process choosing, because it felt like Grifol at least wasn't a part of Montoyo's. Yeah,
I mean, that's certainly the way that it seemed back when Pedro was hired and they announced Montoyo's hiring as well. I can tell you that Montoyo was very, very much loved in that clubhouse. All the players seemed to like him a lot, but it seemed like those two guys were co-workers and not necessarily signed up together, kind of thing like that. So we'll see what happens. Obviously you don't have to be best buds in order to hire a coaching staff. It's not like because we can't point to, Will Venable never played with this guy for 4 years with the Padres, so he's gonna hate him, kind of thing. Like, you can obviously be a coach and say, that guy does a phenomenal job, I want him as a part of my staff, kind of thing. So it has seemed to me that Will has been certainly involved in picking the coaching positions that would be open. I also kind of think that it seems like a lot of the White Sox coaching staff will be back but we'll see what happens on that front when those are officially announced.
Anything else?
No.
Okay. All right. We'll take a break here. We got more after the break. We want to let you know about our friends over at ComEd.
Vinny, did you know that ComEd can help businesses save money by becoming more energy efficient?
I mean, I hear this every day, so I do, but I'll pretend that I didn't know that ComEd did that for the sake of the ad read.
Yep, the energy efficiency program can help find up to 35% in energy savings.
My goodness, that's a lot of percent. So what does a business have to do to get it?
All they have to do is just sign up for a free facility assessment at ComEd.com/biz.
Sounds cheap, sounds easy. So why aren't more businesses doing this?
I don't know. Maybe they just forgot the website. Can you help them out, Vinny?
They need it hammered into their head. ComEd.com/biz, 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 ComEd.com/biz. I can keep going. ComEd.com/biz.
Terms and conditions apply. Offers are subject to change. Actual savings will vary by customers' energy usage and rate. The ComEd Energy Efficiency Program is funded in compliance with state law.
Thank you. And we also want to let you know about our friends over at Chevy. With Black Friday sales events going on all month long at Ray Chevy, you could score doorbuster deals on your next vehicle without door-busting stress. Head in today to shop their huge selection of new Chevy models with special Black Friday prices. Right now, take $3,000 up to $13,000 off MSRP on most new Chevy models, or shop over 125 of their vehicles priced under $20,000. As one of the top-selling Chevy dealers in the Midwest, you'll always be able to shop one of Chicagoland's largest inventories. Visit our partner this November at the location on Route 12 in Fox Lake or at raychevrolet.com. And if you've heard of Ray Chevrolet, then you've also heard of the Ray Price Promise. They're guaranteed to make your next vehicle more affordable than ever with no price changing, no add-ons, and no hidden fees ever. That means the incredible prices we're talking about now, you can expect to see the very same when you shop at Ray Chevy in-store or online. So shop the Black Friday sales event all month long by visiting Ray Chevrolet in Fox Lake or raychevrolet.com. They've been serving the community since 1963. Together, let's try.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Is there any more on McKinven that you want to get into? I think the one thing that I didn't mention, Bud Black is the only former major league pitcher who is currently a manager. I think a lot of managers currently have an offensive mindset to the game, or at least can put themselves into defensive positioning. McKinven, being a former pitcher, obviously wasn't much. He was with the Worcester, whatever.
He just played indie ball, yeah.
Played some indie ball. But still understand what it's like to be on a mound. And obviously understands he's part of run prevention. He's working with the bullpen coach. He's working with the catching coach. He's got his hand in every single pot when it comes to the pitching side. I think it's just exciting that Will Venable, a guy who's always been around the offensive side, has a sounding board of somebody who is truly defensive. I don't know if this is Chris Getz maybe pushed because, again, we heard so much about Getz wanting to improve the defense. But I do think at least for, again, a sounding board, guardian angel, this is a good hire. I do have to ask you, who's the devil on the shoulder? Is it Don Cooper being like, throw a cutter?
He's not there anymore.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Duh.
Yeah.
I just think
It would
Don
have to be
Cooper's
somebody
soul lurks around the White Sox
somebody
clubhouse.
that's at least within earshot, I would have to imagine.
But yeah, do we think that the defensive thing is anything a part of this here? I mean, is it just, this guy's an up-and-comer with the Brewers, as you mentioned, Robert Murray of Fanside had said that, this is a huge loss for the Brewers. I mean, it is, not even with Brewer fans alone. I mean, Major League on the outside thinks that this is a great hire. So do you think there's anything there with that manager, or is it just, this is a smart guy?
I think it's, all encompassing. I think that they probably like that he has that extra stuff, but I think that just his reputation precedes himself. And so, yeah, to have, a guy who was part of run prevention on the Brewers, which you can see year after year, their catching has always been pretty solid. And their pitching, where they're getting Colin Ray to be an actual solid pitcher, and, they lose a pitcher like Brandon Woodruff, and they lose Corbin Burns, and they didn't, skip a beat at all because they still have a good infrastructure there. And now the White Sox have one of their superstars in their system. I'm just still shocked about the White Sox getting people that other people wanted, and that if Walker McKinven does well, he will be wanted by somebody else for their managerial spot. And those are the type of hires you want. You want your guys that you hire to be coveted by other teams. That means they're doing a great job. And so I'm I am pleasantly surprised by the Chris Getz offseason he's had so far. I'm probably not going to back off mine. It might take 10 years thing, but these guys are kind of going to change my mind if they do the jobs that they are, promised to do in the future. It's not going to happen next year, but you can see, like, it's just so amazing. And we're talking to Erik Kratz earlier, where he pretty much co-signed that whole, hey, you're a guy who's just pushing a pencil and you're a nerd. You never played Major League Baseball type of thing. I'm not going to listen to you, Rook. Until they actually listened to him, and like 3/4 into the season, he said, like, oh man, this man knows what he's talking about. So I think that type of philosophy that Chris Getz has for having a bunch of Major League Baseball players around the Major League Baseball team, either coaching or front office, is going to pay dividends, because you need people to actually listen to you, because you have the bona fides. I've been where you've been. And now this guy, while he hasn't been a Major League player, he has people who were Major League players like, hey, no, that guy you need to listen to, because he got me from this level to the next level. Yeah, he's not a guy that played in 162 in a Major League ballpark, but you know what? He's going to get your ass from where you are right now to the sky.
You don't think the White Sox are interested in run prevention?
Oh,
they can't score any runs, so you're going to have to prevent them, right? Again, as I keep talking about, a lot of these hires are not being made for 2025, right? I mean, they're being made for the long term to change the way this organization works, not just to get them better for next year, and slightly better for next year. So, but at the same time, if you're looking at, and we know Chris Getz is, because he's gone out and said, hey, every move we make this year has to be, or this offseason has to be focused on bringing in position players. If you look at your organization and say, man, we're pretty light on position players, we're light on hitters, the pitching's great. You know what you need, you know what you can improve? You can improve your catching, improve your defense, and become the kind of a team that doesn't need to score 10 runs to win a game. Again, in the long term, they want to be a team that scores more than 2 runs a game. But in the short term, maybe bringing in some of those run prevention ideas and setting that as your foundation helps you win a little bit more than you would have, because your lineup might be lagging behind.
I do want to go to the Athletics player poll from 2024. There's 2 things that I want to point out. 79 respondents were asked what organizations have bad reputations among players. The Oakland Athletics, now the Athletics. You can also call them the Sacramento Athletics. You can also call them the Vegas A's, whatever you want.
I think they should be the California Athletics for a little while.
I
harkens back to the California Angels.
I think John Fisher should sell, but that's a different. We're having 2 conversations.
Mine is much easier to make happen.
Yes.
Yeah.
40 of the 79 said Oakland / the Athletics / California A's. 19 said the White Sox. 14 said the Angels. 10 said the Rockies. Again, this is what Chris Getz is trying to work on. Chris Getz really was only there for about 5 months at the point of this poll, so a lot of it's probably just carryover and lingering on from Rick Hahn and Kenny Williams, and obviously, you understand that
years and years, right? Yeah,
there's still a connection with Jerry Reinsdorf.
You don't build a bad reputation just based on one season,
right? But we've been excited about the hires. I mean, I think Connor said they're building the staffiest staff that's ever staffed, which is pretty good. But I do find it interesting that, again, a former player, Chris Getz, is now revamping the analytic department to research and development. Walker mentioned that he's a liaison between the clubhouse and the R&D department in Milwaukee, so that would likely continue. He'll still be a liaison for that clubhouse, communicating to Will Venable and whatnot. But it is interesting in this poll, have analytics helped your career, hurt your career, or made no difference? 92 votes, 76% said it helped, 10.8% no difference, 8.6% said both helped and hurt, 3.2% said hurt. So out of the 92, basically like 2 guys said that analytics has never helped them. Do you think that you need to rebrand that dirty word analytics to R&D to get guys to buy in? Because Kratz mentioned he doesn't want to put him in this analytical framework, right? Apparently it feels like this is a dirty word. Am I off on this assumption?
No. I think here's what I would say. I think the dirty word part of it, and it's very true that it is thought of that way outside of a clubhouse. You know what I mean? Outside of a game. I think years ago, there was probably more of a headbutting thing inside the game, but I think the only place that argument is taking place now, or even the focus of being what it is taking place among people like us and on the outside. But you got to get people to listen, yep. Right? I think if you're a professional baseball player right now, if you're a Major League Baseball player right now, because there's so much of that number stuff going on in the minor leagues, if you're a Major League Baseball player, you know that's part of the job right now. I don't think you're sitting there being like, I don't want to do that. I think you know that that's part of the gig, and that's going to be presented to you. The question is, how can a team present it in a way that makes an impact on the way that your players play every single night? And that's the challenge. That's obviously something the White Sox have had a problem with. I think the rebrand is probably, again, just to catch up. Yep. You know what I mean? I don't know how many places around baseball are still calling it that. You know what I mean? I think the idea is that it's a more holistic approach, and so than just printing out a spreadsheet and handing it off. So when you get these guys these are young guys, right? Ryan Fuller's a young guy. Walker McKinven's a young guy. Will Venable, by manager standards, young guy, right? Even though he's about 10 years older than those two guys that I just mentioned. The thought being there that these guys have grown up in this era now, and maybe they're, especially someone who's been a former player and had that stuff presented to them, like Will Venable, is able to turn around and present that to the guys in a way that is much more easy to not even understand. Because, again, I think that these guys, I think you're a Major League Baseball player. You've been hearing this for a while now. I think it's about putting it into practice on a nightly basis. That's what Ryan Fuller was talking about, right? I think that's the challenge ahead of not just the White Sox, every team in baseball, but every team in baseball has maybe invested in ways to get that done a little bit better than the White Sox have to this point, and that's kind of what Chris Getz is trying to make up. And
I'm not even sure if Chris Getz is doing the R&D rebrand for the players. Players, as Vinny said, they know about analytics, and it's not a boogeyman for them. I'm thinking he's doing that more for Jerry Reinsdorf and the upper management of the White Sox. Like, just call research and development so he doesn't get, analytics. That's the Oakland A's. That's the Moneyball people. I don't want to do that. Research and development.
Sounds cheap.
Yeah, research and development. That sounds awesome. Yes, I want
making robots.
I want to research and develop. That sounds awesome.
You got beakers and test tubes going on in there.
But think about the Major League Baseball players. Some of them come out of high school, some come out of college. They're not dumb people. They're simple people. And so if you dumb it down to, for a lack of a better term, it's probably just a better way for them to ingest what is given to them instead of coming over their head and saying, this is I'm going to tell you your launch angle and the R&D of this. No, that just baseball it down. Give me the simple stuff so I can perform on the field. That's all I need to hear. And Ryan Fuller also the same thing, I think, in Baltimore, where he is just simplifying the things that are pretty difficult to learn, but put it into baseball terms.
Ryan asking, this time next year, will you be able to say these managerial hires made a true difference on the club? I'll speak first. I think if Chris Getz is able to take these research and development changes and they're able to build a Boston Dynamics robot like Atlas and he's able to swing a baseball bat, absolutely.
I want to see I want to see them build the robot like Disney made for Spider-Man that can fly and do tricks on itself. That's the better one. To truly answer your question, Ryan, I think. What?
He's like, I didn't answer this question.
You didn't truly answer his question.
Robots.
To truly answer his question, I think yes, in a way, but like it's
I think it will be. I disagree. Because I think it'll be very difficult for us and especially fans to see that. I think that this team is not going to win a lot of games. They're going to have a lot of players that aren't part of the future and are going to continue to play and produce at a level that is way below what you would like it to be, right? I think that there's still going to be guys on the field that make errors, and there's still going to be guys on the field who strike out all the time, and that's going to be that because the White Sox are not expected to be a good team in 2025. But you ask that question of people who work for the White Sox, and they might be able to tell you not just something different, but hell yeah, it did. You know what I mean? They might be able to say, wow, we're really doing things way different than we were a year or especially 2 years ago, right? And so I think that, again, I keep using the phrase behind the scenes, and that is what that means, right? That the people who, for lack of a better term, need to know that things are going in the right direction will know that it's going in the right direction. For the majority of us, we judge it based on what happens on the field every night. And I don't think you're going to see an overwhelmingly dramatic difference on the field. And not only that, it's like, how can you tell whether the guy whose job it is to tell a player about a specific pitcher on a specific day, did he do his job? Was the player just good? Is the player just bad? Did that guy not do an effective job? You know what I mean? There's a lot of stuff that it's hard to see that even when things are going well, it's hard to tell where along the line the things are occurring. So I think that there are people that you'll be able to ask that question that will be far more informed and be able to give you a far better answer than not just us three, but anybody else watching this team through the TV or even at the ballpark.
One of the reasons why I said it might take 10 years is because you need most things to go right. And you're talking about tangible things, Ryan, about, at this time next year, will we see improvement or true difference? Probably not. But you need in spring training, what is that, a month and a half, 2 months? Buy-in from these people who you haven't met before. Yeah, they got good names. You probably know who Will Venable is. You probably know who Walker McKinven is, but you need to buy into what they're talking about. And then there's going to be some struggle behind that. Now, will the players continue down that path? Or will they say, bump all this that guy's talking about. I'm going to do me and go in this direction. And as Vinny said, majority of these players on the 40-man roster won't be here when the White Sox are ready to go. So then you got to do that all again. You got to keep on churning out the same type of message, the same type of processes to the different players. And so this is going to take time because it's going to have, firstly, a set amount of rules, a set amount of goals, standards, things like that. And then those players have to buy in, and then those players have to actually be good. They're at the bottom of the rung in talent right now. So yeah, they have good coaches, but do they have good players yet? No. So that's going to take some time. And next year, I would hope that the Chris Getz and the managing staff is like, you know what? Our record wasn't where it needed to be. We thought we were better than this. It might be worse. I'm just going to warn you. They're going to trade Garrett Crochet, so they're going to lose their best pitcher. It might be worse next year or the same or similar. But at this time next year, I would hope that it would be market improvement. You would see something tangible on the field a little bit, but also those people behind the scenes were like, we're on the right track. Eventually, we'll be good. Because I know Jarrett wants to say 2027.
Yeah, I mean,
that'd be great. Hey,
I love you.
I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I hope that all these White Sox players hit 90 percentile of their back of the baseball card, and they are great at baseball, and they hit every prospect comes up, and they do their job, and no one gets hurt. It's like a lot of things have to go right for the White Sox to be good within 3 seasons.
Yeah, but everything can go wrong for other teams in Major League Baseball. I mean, you just need an opportunity. Also, we talked about this before the year. It would have been surprising if they lost 121 games. They lost 121 games. Even the general manager was surprised by that. He said that at most he had them projected to lose like 110 or something like that.
But that's a lot.
Yes. Right, it's still a lot. But it's kind of unthinkable that they'd be this bad. I don't think they're going to be 120 plus losses again this year. I just don't think baseball teams are going to be that bad. And you mentioned the talent. There is talent, a huge lack of talent. Kratz mentioned that. But there is one shining orb of talent on this team, and it's Luis Robert Jr.
It is.
And there is a true transformation that needs to happen to get him back looking like 2023 Luis Robert Jr. And there was talk with Chuck Garfien on the White Sox Talk, CHSN, White Sox podcast, whatever it is, with Ryan Fuller today. He talked about Luis Robert Jr. and changing that, but that's going to be the biggest sign, at least for me in 2025, is you have a player with all the talent in the world, the Cuban Mike Trout. Let's see what you can do to change this player. And can you gain the trust of this player, a player that has notably relied on their own hitting coach for a majority of their career? Can you get Luis Robert Jr. trusting this new front office, trusting this new director of hitting, buying in and getting him to look more like 2023? That's the biggest thing for me, because yes, there's going to be a lack of talent and they might lose 100 plus games. It would be incredible for Will Venable to come in and win 20 more games than last year. A miracle, truly. But can they get the true turnarounds from the people we think have talent? That might just be Luis Robert Jr., but if they're able to get him back to a 35-plus home run hitter, that's going to excel and just speed up this turnaround and this rebuild instantaneously if they have another blue chipper to trade.
Sure. But again, I would just remind that that's probably the end goal of turning him around at this point, is to trade him. You know what I mean? Like,
right. But if they can even get him back to where he was, 2023 trade value-ish, or
sure,
just looking like that player.
Yeah. But I mean,
damaged goods.
When we're talking about timeline and the jobs of these guys moving forward and when they're going to be good again, I mean, it really has gone from, boy, they sure have Luis Robert Jr. for a long time, to, boy, they should try to trade Luis Robert Jr. for as soon as they can, right? And that's that is a reflection of the timeline thing. And, the job of Ryan Fuller and the hitting coaches and really everybody on this team, the R&D department, it's to get Robert back to where he was, but I feel like Robert has the most of the keys to that car, and these guys' jobs are to build a team for the future. Remember, Luis Robert Jr. is a holdover from before Chris Getz took over. He wasn't picked by Chris Getz. Now, listen, no one's doubting that Luis Robert Jr. is a phenomenal talent, and if he's firing on all cylinders, he's one of the best players in baseball. Anybody would want to have that. But if you're talking about picking out players who fit the vision that you've got and picking out players who you think will be easily molded by your coaching staff and your development staff, picking out players to be a part of this, Chris Getz didn't pick Luis Robert Jr. to be a part of this. And so is he going to, be someone who buys into all this? Maybe, maybe not. He might just be a guy who the light goes back on and he hits really well and they're able to trade him. And then those guys that they get are the guys that they pick. They're the ones that they hand select to be part of this thing moving forward. So I don't think that these guys were hired to really, zero in and focus and get Luis Robert Jr. back to where he needs to be. They're focusing on guys 2-3 years down the road. And, so obviously Chris Getz would like and probably needs Luis Robert Jr. to regain some of that production that he had a couple of years ago, so he can turn him in to players that can be part of the future. But these hires aren't being made to turn Luis Robert Jr. around. They're being made to build the team for the long term. And
like you were saying, Sean, Ryan Fuller joined Chuck Garfina on his CHSN podcast, and what he said about Luis Robert is he has plenty of home runs against the Orioles in the last few years. This is a guy who I see when we're talking about the Aaron Judges is one of the best power threats in the league. He's absolutely one of those guys. So we're excited to talk to him, and you can show them this is what the best players in the league are doing. They do not try and cover the whole zone. They are stingy. When they get a mistake, they crush it. And when the pitchers don't throw it there, they're going to happily take their walk, and they're going to wait until they get that next step back to do damage on it. So giving him a clear path, again, I know it's cliche, but there's a simple and sticky where we can make these plans where the guys, where they know, okay, you know what? The White Sox are asking me to do 1 and 2. So he's just simple. It's like when you got your pitch, crush it. That's what Aaron Judge done. Don't swing at that out. I mean, how many times have we talked about you're not going to hit that slider outside the zone? And if you do, it's going to the first baseman, and it's a ground out, or it's a pop out to the right fielder. And I hope Ryan Fuller, the director of hitting for the White Sox, imparts that knowledge to Luis Robert. And more importantly, Luis Robert listens, because this is his last year with a contract before the 2 options come in. This is the most vital part of, except for the Garrett Crochet trade, but of the White Sox rebuild here, because if he doesn't play well this next year, you're going to get him, and you're probably not going to pick up the $20 million option for 2026, and then you're just going to lose him for nothing. So he needs to play well in that first half of the season for the White Sox to cash in for what Luis Robert really is. I don't think he has the maximum trade value right now. Theoretically, they could trade him to a team if they get what they can assume is maximum value for Luis Robert, but I think the first half of the season is so vital for the White Sox and Luis Robert to maximize on his trade potential in the future, because he plays bad. He plays like this next year. You got nothing. He's going to be on the next bus like Yohan Moncada is right now and Eloy Jimenez.
Yeah, I disagree a little bit with that. I mean, I think especially with the scenario where the White Sox are, if I'm paying Andrew Benintendi $17 million, I don't care if I'm paying Luis Robert Jr. $20 million for the next 2 years, because I'm not just going to let him walk for nothing. If he ever bounces back at any point, that $20 million is going to look like nothing to teams. So if I'm not spending anything on this team under $100 million, I think it's worth keeping Robert around just for that potential. If Robert wants to leave, if Robert wants to get out of here by 2025, 2026, if White Sox Tom is correct that Luis Robert doesn't care, then maybe he should care to try to play a little bit better to get out of there, because I wouldn't, if I'm the White Sox, this is the best thing to walk in the door in the past 8 years into this franchise. I don't care, I'll spend the $40 million to see what happens if I can get anything out of him.
I think that's a very interesting discussion. I don't know. You would have asked me that a year ago. It's like, yeah. Why would they? It's a bargain. Why would they ever not pick up that option after the year he had last year? If he has that year again this year, a team that is always looking to cut, that is currently looking to cut payroll. I don't know because I think right now, as I just said, he's here to be traded at this point, right?
Yep.
And so if he's not doing anything that's going to get you anything in a trade or get you anywhere near as what you thought he was going to get in a trade, it's a very interesting discussion. I think you're right, Sean, in that like his talent is worth that. So if he bounces back at any time, it's a worthwhile investment because you're going to get that back in what you get in a trade, right? But at the same time, if there is a world that exists in which his peak trade value has passed, right?
It's possible.
I'm not saying that that's the world we're in. We'll find out what happens, but for all you multiverse fans out there you go.
I guess that's why I'm just kind of pushing, that's why I think it's important that Fuller gets this player to turn around. I mean, if we're looking at least at these new front office additions, what's the biggest thing we can look at 2025? It's not going to be the win-loss record. It's can they get anything out of Luis Robert Jr., whether that is for themselves for here on out or, in the trade value or at least in the trade market. The one things with Robert, too, you mentioned or Fuller mentions, you read the Fuller quote that mentions him doing damage to mistakes. If you can picture a typical 9-box strike zone, so 3 at the top, 3 in the middle, 3 at the bottom, anything outside of that.
Your regular baseball card holder page.
Right. Yeah. This is run value by zone. In the corners of that, so up and in, out and in, in, and then out and away. He was negative in 3 of those 4 zones, negative 1.2 up and in, negative 2.1 up and away, negative 0.7 out and away, and then 0.5 run value low and in. That completely changed this past year. So 3 of the 4 were still negative, but low and in from 0.5 to negative 2.7. Out and away, negative 2.1 to negative 1. Up and in, negative 1.2 to 0.2, so a little bit of an increase there. But mainly low and away, negative 0.7 to negative 7.2. Oof. And then, most importantly, outside of that box, low and away, that's a ball, 2.6 in 2023, negative 3.1. So just that low and away section, you were worth probably about 2 run value on low and away in the zone and low and away out of the zone. And then in 2024, negative 10. So, I mean, there's a just complete 8-run difference right there. Not even 8-run difference. If it's negative 10, it's what? It's
12.
Like 12-run difference, yes. Yeah, because of the negatives. Look at that. We're doing math. So, yeah, I think that's the biggest thing is if you can just try to have them key in on the strike zone, that's going to be the biggest jump. Right down the middle, 2023, 7.1 run value, negative 2.6 in 2024. Jesus. So, I mean, those are the pitches that he should be hitting. I think it's very surprising that he just kind of lost that ability. If I have to bet on Luis Robert Jr., this guy that we've heard so much about his baseball acumen, I think he's going to be able to hit middle rather than, what we saw in 2024. So I think it's an interesting discussion if he's as bad as 2024, but I think there's a lot to work with there if you are Ryan Fuller, Will Venable, etc., the cast of crew, Marcus Timms. We'll see what happens. That's going to do it for the CHGO White Sox podcast. When you see White Sox time talking about Robert not throwing it home, you can tell that we've been talking for too long. Thank you to Sarah for producing the show. Thank you to Erik Kratz, the MLB vet and the co-host of Foul Territory, for joining us to talk about our guy Walker McKinven. That's Vinny Duber, our CHGO White Sox beat writer. That's Herb Lawrence, our CHGO White Sox community leader. I'm Sean Anderson, your CHGO White Sox host. Hit that thumbs up button. Make sure you subscribe to the CHGO Sports YouTube channel. And if you do want to join our diehard program, head over to allchgo.com. You get all exclusive access to Vinny's writings up there and all of our writings up at allchgo.com. You get a shirt of your choice, exclusive discounts to merch and to events, and you also get to join our CHGO diehard Discord where you get to chat with us all day long about the Chicago White Sox. We appreciate everyone hanging out with us. Again, we appreciate Erik. We appreciate Sarah. Hit that thumbs up button. Make sure you're subscribing to the CHGO Sports YouTube channel. We do have more Chicago coverage coming to you as I see the Bulls guys discussing their show coming up. So if you do want more Chicago sports coverage, we got you covered every single day. Bulls show tonight at 5:30. You also got a Blackhawks postgame show at 10. And tomorrow we'll be back at 4 p.m. for more White Sox coverage here on the CHGO Sports YouTube channel.
We all silly like the mayor.